So let's pick up from where it all began.
Of course, I have an issue with the person of SUZY, just to say it beforehand, and also JONI as well, even Jonathan, like everybody, because I'm looking at this with a different lens, and to be sincere, there are no glasses here, it's just for the aesthetic, okay? So let's get on, of course, right here to the video. In this video, I'm discussing the alleged abuse of a minor belonging to SUZY and Jonathan in the Daystar family scandal, or would I say the feud you see on social media. This has been the first thing people were talking about in the comments ever since I started with the first part of the video, looking at the person of Dogwise and Lisa, involving of course Johnny Lamb. Of course. Now in the second part of the video, of course, I looked at the person of Dennis, Bugs, and the letter that was written by Marcus, which really also opens up the internal issues that was going on in Daystar, which was not new to Marcus. Seems to look prophetic for the spiritual people with respect to what is happening right now at Daystar, involving Jonathan, SUZY, Johnny Lamb, and some other people we are going to be seeing mentioned in today's video. Now we have to make sure we handle this part very carefully, so please, I would only advise you to do one thing: listen. So sometimes I have to make sure I wait and listen to all parts as they get to give their defense rebuttal, so I can really make the connection. And because I'm very perceptive, of course, I can see through certain things as well personally.
Be patient.
Johnny Lamb as well has reacted when she was with the ladies over there at Daystar to the allegations. We are going to be looking at that because I connected that as well to the things SUZY has said, and also SUZY took herself to Marcus and they had a very interesting conversation over there at Marcus Rogers' corner. So these are the two main videos I'm looking at right here as I now talk about the alleged sex, I use the word as abuse. Okay, now we have to also, right before we begin, what itself is child abuse, child molestation, S abuse? What context can we look at this? Because if I were to ask you right now, okay, yes, SUZY says her daughter was sexually molested or abused or something. How can you define that? So I did a bit of search as well here just to give us context of what you might be thinking about, because it's going to guide me in making some really emphatic statements. Probably I might even get letters from SUZY and Jonathan as well in this whole conversation. Trust me, because I'm for no one. If you have known me for long, you know that already. So just to give us context here, look at your screen now as I'm going to put up this image and then just tell you what abuse itself right here actually entails as it relates to children. So I had to get this from a website that really focuses on looking at issues of abuse. I can put the link to the website, of course, in the pinned comment, so you can just check it out and then be able to really understand where I'm getting this ideology from, because I want you to be able to have a context in what you see as abuse as well, because the family has not stated categorically what is seen, what is the definition of what they call abuse, but we can look at it, of course, in this particular context, any of them. So it says here, examples of child molestation. Number one is, the term of child molestation includes the following touching offenses that can include: number one, penetration. Would YouTube get to catch that? Penetration, either ways. Number two, groping. Groping, I got to know this word recently, like from this research, like inappropriate touching, if I'm to put it that way. Number three, making a child or teen touch another person's okay. Number four, coercing a child or teen to touch himself, the offender, or another child. So that is on the part of molestation. And also child sexual abuse can also include non-touching offenses such as, number one as well, exposing. This is also an avenue for us to learn, so you get to know when this actually happens if you are in an environment like this. I always tell my audience why I like talking about trending conversations is that aside me looking at what is happening and helping my audience see a bigger picture of it, I also want us to learn from the trends, because even I got to learn as well when I was studying about this particular subject. Exposing oneself to a child or a teen. Now listen, remember, SUZY herself has said in her previous narration that the first instance and mention of Pete in this whole subject with her daughter was that Pete came to her himself without being pushed or something and told her, "Hi, SUZY, your daughter walked up on me and saw me the way the Lord created Adam and Eve. So I just thought to tell you so you know that this happened." Note, Pete came himself, not as if he was caught or this happened. Now you need to ask yourself a question: where would Pete be that his own daughter, Jonathan and SUZY's daughter, would walk into the bathroom and see Pete probably having a shower, like she said.
On a trip, this man says that our daughter walked in on him in a bathroom, saw him full frontal nude.
Is that happening at Daystar? Is that happening at Pete's house? It cannot be at Jonathan and Suzy's house, because they talk about as well, Pete always wanting to have children around, having sleepovers and all of that. So what did she do? She went and checked her daughter. Mothers, how do you get to check your children? Contextually. So she went and checked her daughter. Everything was fine. Nothing wrong. This was the first instance of Pete being mentioned. Have that at the back of your mind. But already as a mother, someone coming to tell you this as well. Number one. Okay? I just had to make this comment as well because that is so. But in this case as well, it's seen as the person intentionally doing that. So maybe Pete himself was like, okay, this has happened. So it doesn't look as if tomorrow maybe the child says, oh, I saw Uncle's BP, I saw Uncle's this. It does not look as if literally he showed that to you. That would be child sexual abuse. So he came and told her, this is what happened. And then nothing happened. She didn't. Because that was him owning up as well to that. So you have to discuss as well. There has to be clarity on that. Note, Pete has not been charged of anything as a crime. That's why his name is a pseudonym Pete. Please don't have sentiment in this, I beg you. Viewing and violating the private behaviors of a child or teen, such as dressing, showering, okay? Dressing, showering. So you get why the point that Jonathan got into the room and say, what are you doing? I'm trying to imagine his face. What are you doing? But something was missed out in the first part of that particular conversation, because when they had came out and then spoke about it initially in this video, they missed out a very vital point, which JONI herself came out and clarified. You see, that's why it's good to hear different parts of the story. JONI came out and clarified the story that when Pete himself went upstairs there, he was holding his own child. Jonathan's child was also there at the top, while before the girl now came and was now undressing. Now, SUZY is saying that he followed the child. I don't know how they're trying to correlate that. So whether he followed the child upstairs or he was there already with the son looking before the child came to come and undress and then get herself ready for the beach or whatever. Either ways, she never mentioned the fact that there were more than two persons there. It was Pete himself with a child and also their own son there with the girl there that was undressing. If Pete was having something in mind to do something, whatever, intentionally, I would say, why would he even be there with his own child? And there's also someone else there. Will it even really occur normally in his mind if he was something like that? Like they would say maybe a predator that is going to be looking and trying to fantasize the child undressing? Because that will be what will be defined right here, viewing and violating the private behaviors of a child or teen, such as dressing and showering. Intentionally sneaky. But this is a case whereby, according to what JONI is narrating as well here, is, pretty much as well a normal day, because probably, I guess, Pete himself likes being around children. You understand? Do you understand what I'm saying? So I want you to get the point here. So Jonathan himself didn't say when he was narrating how he went there in this video that there was actually some other children there, that it was not just him and the child. He didn't narrate that. So now that JONI came out and responded with the ladies, now that is when they now had to respond as well, like you see right here with Marcus Rogers. They got to address that and now say, oh, there was other children there, but it's not a factor. Come on, it's a factor, it's important. But we'll get on to that conversation, okay? This are just coming up because I've taken my notes down as well. And as I'm reading this down, I'm trying to really pinpoint where could be the issue, because you weren't there, I wasn't there. The best we can do as well is have an objective conversation about this. Next, of course, right here is taking sexually explicit or provocative photographs of them. Next as well here, encouraging them to send sexually explicit or provocative photos of themselves. Next is showing pornography to them. Next is, of course, talking to children about sexually explicit fantasies and all of that. So you watching this as well, you can now at least know some things that can be categorized as child molestation, child abuse, and all of that. You see why even talking about this trend as well here is really important, because indeed, of course, we are learning. I got to really realize some things that I never even knew was, but it's very, very important. Do you get the point right here? Now we are going to now follow the chronology of events right now, which I've talked about the first one. Pete walking up to her and telling her this is what happened. Now she now goes on to say that months after that as well, what happened, the child now tells her that she was molested. Okay, gives her details. Now note, when she said that, she didn't tell her, according to what JONI said, that it was her and someone else. According to what SUZY told you, everybody on social media, that the daughter told her that she was molested. But according to JONI Lamb, she said that it was her and someone else. That means there were two girls. That the girl was narrating whatever was the subject of molestation to the mother. So what did they do? They had to go to the school because she told the grandmother, JONI Lamb, and they had to go to her school to go and check, only to find out that the school does not have male employees. Note that JONI is saying that it's by a boy, and JONI does not even go ahead to mention that they reported to maybe the police or something. She said that they went and reported to the school. While SUZY, in order to make it rhyme with what she said, the daughter told her the person is taller than her father. If the person is taller than the father, that means the person will not be a boy like her. JONI does not get to mention about going to a police station in her own rebuttal about this. So if SUZY had gone to the police station, one thing you should be asking is, what did she file in the police station as a story, and what were the police people investigating? Were they investigating that there was a tall man taller than, the father that did that to her? If that was the case, of course, and the school does not have male employees, what are they looking for? If it was a story that is actually a boy like her that maybe did that to her, then you cannot even categorize that as child abuse or child molestation. So on what ground did the police themselves see the whole news as unfounded? And the only reason that will make the parent probably go to the police station would be because there's a suspicion that she was actually being abused by someone that is an adult. So SUZY has told us that she actually went to the police when that particular report was made. That means that it will be making sense that what she said, that her daughter told her that an adult was the one that molested her, would be enough reason for her to go to the police station to go and report. So we have to just take them for their word. So JONI as well would have to tell us if she herself went to the police with her, and what was the ground of reporting to the police, since they went, according to JONI, that they went and reported to the school what the girl had said. But note as well that JONI was saying that it is a boy, not like a man like they have said.
I asked my child. I have no practice with this. I don't know what leading questions are or not. I assumed it was the school. Her world was so small. Home, school, and we'd take her to Daystar.
Listen attentively. She said, I assumed it was a school. Okay, that means she's assuming at the point she's speaking right now, she's very certain that it's not literally the school, but it's actually at Daystar, looking at how her world was small. That confirms the fact of why she would call JONI and tell JONI that this happened on the school with certainty because of her own pre-assumption. She was never thinking about Daystar as a den.
So
always listen.
I assumed it was a school. I asked her, is it at school? She was nervous and just nodding. I found out since, counselors have explained that behavior to me now, and it all adds up. It all makes sense. And I said, was it a girl or a boy? She said a boy. And I said, how tall? Trying to gauge the age. And she said, taller than daddy. That struck fear in my heart because that is a man. A 5-year-old doesn't, know to communicate that. Okay, picking up the pace. Once that happens, we go to the school, and, this confidant, the one I trusted, after we talked to the teachers and they said there's no male here.
You might be wondering, there is no male here, like male here as in there is no male teachers, or male here as in there are no male students? Ambiguous? Let's listen.
It's almost like, okay, we've done our part, case closed. And I told Jonathan, I don't want to get talked out of this. I don't want to have a discussion with your family. Let's go to the police. We went to the police, filed our report. They did a quick little investigation since there was not much to go on. They closed the case pretty quickly because our daughter was terrified. She wouldn't talk anymore.
So clearly, just for you to know that Jonathan and SUZY decided to go to the police station, and you could hear SUZY herself saying that we don't want to involve your family. I don't want to be shut down. I have to go to the police. It makes sense why JONI doesn't talk about the police, because she wasn't told and she was taken out of the context of that. All she knows is that she told her that there was a boy that molested her. They went there and reported to the school, and then they found nothing. Does it make sense?
school. So they
a lot of things, small things happen from talking to, people, processing, other family members, reaching out with concerns. Things happen. We're more vigilant over our child. We get a nanny in the picture to keep her away. She's terrified to go to Daystar.
You have to know that this missing detail that JONI has brought out about there being two girls makes it very, very different, because if she was molested with someone else according to what the story was, that means there has to be another girl in the picture that actually happened according to the story of her own daughter. Because if you are singling out your daughter in this particular case, and your daughter told you there were two girls and that's what you told JONI, would it be that JONI is lying about what she is saying that SUZY had told her with respect to what had happened in the school, which SUZY herself is trying to connect to be something that must have happened in Daystar? If it's something that happened in Daystar, okay, let's assume it is Daystar. Which other girl are we going to put in that particular picture as well? Except maybe you are all going to say that JONI herself was lying to say that this was what she received as an information from SUZY. Do you understand? Because if you see this part as well to be a lie, I'm not trying to hold the brief for anyone. That means you have to also see the part where she talks about the next incident that they are talking about right here.
We do, however, go on that family vacation in August of 2021.
To also be a lie, but what she was saying was true, and of course they had to confirm it that there were other people in the second incident that Jonathan was shouting, "What are you doing here?" Let's get back to the video. But that is also one thing I saw to be a disparity, of course, in both stories. So
I had told a journalist this part, but we didn't make it public because we want to leave children out of the story. There was another child, he was holding his kid in his arms. I'm not going to get into that, but it's almost like it was a non-factor.
So let me assume that SUZY, in the same line of thought, didn't want to include other children, so she just mentioned her child.
And SUZY called me and said there had been an incident at my granddaughter's preschool, and she told me that something had happened where a little boy touched her and her friend.
So according to her, SUZY told her that a little boy touched her and her friend. That is what she's saying that she received from SUZY as information. Now, would you think that she was lying right here? If she was lying right here, would she also have been lying about the fact that there was someone else in the room that SUZY had missed out? Because SUZY is telling us as well here something different, but she is saying as well something different here, but it's about the same school. Because according to what she's saying here, SUZY specifically told her that it was something that happened at her school, that a boy. Okay, so the school as well here, does the school also have the preschool? Does it have only girls, or is it a girls and boys preschool? Do you understand? Because what she's saying here now would now look as if it's more like a children's situation, I would say. Let's listen again as well here so we get to it. Let's continue.
And so she called me and asked me would I go to the school with her. And I said, absolutely. So I went with her to the school. We reported it to the school. And of course, I was there to encourage, and as I would for any child, but especially my granddaughter.
Yes, of course. Yes.
And so that was the incident that happened. And yet, what's being written is just taken out of context. That was the incident that happened in 2020, and I was there, and SUZY actually called me to go there.
Okay, so
Okay, so that was just it. I had to be very sure of what I was saying, and that is it there. Different from what SUZY herself is saying. So it's now your choice. If you want to follow facts of who you want to believe. But I know there's a lot of bashing on Daystar already at the point right now whereby they'll be getting a lot of heat, I would say. I was even seeing a video where some people were calling her meeting with her friends over there, what they were discussing, that they're like the witches. I'm like, wait a minute, come on. You see, I don't know what, anyway, I'm not American. My mind is much different when it comes to things I deal with, okay? But you have to understand something here. If you look at these two despairing stories right now, which of them do you believe? But again, so it doesn't look as if it's one-sided. We are going to listen to SUZY right now and get to talk about this as well. I'm going to start from a point where she tries to make an insinuation. We are getting to talking about this whole sex abuse thing, but notice what I have pointed out as well to you right here. Two things. Be thinking around that subject. You could pause and write what you are thinking at a point, but just observe those two factors. But we are going to listen to SUZY right here as well with Marcus Rogers as well. I was even wondering to myself, if you had watched this particular video from the beginning, Marcus was praying about Jezebel. I was just wondering to myself, praying about Jezebel's spirit and all of that. In this particular video, you realize that there are probably 3 Jezebels here. Number 1, if you listen to the audio recording where Jonathan was recording with SUZY and the person of Jimmy, JONI was thinking that SUZY's post during their whole issue internally on her Instagram about Jezebel and all of that was insinuating her, while SUZY said that she was posting something from the Bible she's reading, and from there, that was why she posted that on her Instagram, which they thought she was talking about JONI Lamb. The next Jezebel issue right here is that she herself, SUZY, is being seen as quote and unquote a Jezebel. Okay, that's number 2 here. Number 3 is that Jonathan's sister, who probably I think is not in partnership or in cahoot with SUZY, is allegedly being seen by SUZY as being a Jezebel. What do you see as a correlation in this particular conversation? If you watch my previous video, many of you didn't watch it, I care less, I would say. I just have to make sure that if you are commenting something here that has to do with something I've discussed before, I'll give you woto. Just know that one, okay? The women that are in this family, I think in my opinion, are very strong opinionated women. They are the ones that get to drive their husbands. They are very, very, how am I going to put it, very, if I'm to use the word, very forward. I don't know if that's a good word. Because SUZY herself, you will see her even talk about it here, that she's the one that actually gets to put up the person of Jonathan to be in a particular way, more like fight for him, help him. You even hear JONI herself alleging to that here, that they will talk about something with Jonathan. When he goes home and come back, the thing changes. And even when we looked at our previous video, you see that even JONI herself said it with her mouth. I didn't take her out of context. That when it comes to her family structure, how they run, she influences the major decisions, but Marcus has to be the one to speak out like the leader, so that if God comes for him, she's under him. And then the way she described it, we looked at that here. Okay, so I take my conversation step by step so you really understand what we are looking at. These are things that we were not there, but we can discuss of them objectively based on what we are seeing coming out. That's why sometimes it's good to be patient. I don't just jump on a trend because, oh, everybody is talking about it, it's hot. No, in the end, what happens? What are you learning from that hot topic? Pay attention to details. Attention is currency. Okay, so let's go on as well here to listen to SUZY. Let me put my earpiece. SUZY, I hope you are not watching this video because I don't want you to cry. And JONI, I hope you are okay. Your lawyers are doing what they have to do. Please continue. I've been refreshing my email. I'm still waiting for my letter. But since the letter is not coming, maybe we'll continue. If you got up to this point as well, just check the pinned comments. Do as if you're trying to comment on the video. When you check the pinned comment, you see a link that is there on my comment. It takes you to the continuation of this video because it's actually demarcated into different subjects. I'll still continue with the whole sex abuse allegation, which you also get to know who Pete is if you are thinking clearly like I would be showing you. But most importantly as well, I'll be looking at the family structure as well, like I talked about before. But just in case you want to continue with this video, just click on the pinned comment. Okay, I would have made this video like 2 hours, even though it's that long, but I had to make sure I cut it piecemeal so that if you were watched up to this point, you can continue, and maybe after a few hours as well, I'll release the other one on a different title and all that. So to see it before it's being released, which is not public at the point, click on the pinned comment as well to see the next part of the video. I don't want it to be like too long and people just, I like taking my time to do things. So click in the comments and then get to continue. Okay, let's listen to